Hey, Heather with the Mosco, and today we're going to put these containers on our drip irrigation system. In a couple videos ago, I installed drip irrigation into my front flower beds, and I mentioned that I was going to put some drip containers on them as well, and today we finally got our pots here and we're going to hook up our drip for these containers. Now these containers are empty and brand new. I'm going to pot them up later, mostly for the fall. I was going to start using them for seasonal plantings, but this fall I wanted to put some mums in them, but I wanted them to be ready to go on drip when that time came. So I wanted to go over some supplies that we're going to use today. We're going to use 1/4 inch poly tubing. This is your black water hose or water line that gets the water where you need it to go. And I've seen people do this several different ways. I did a lot of research on drip irrigation, and a lot of people will run that up and then put an emitter in there, but we're actually going to use a different type of brown tubing than last time. These again are all from Home Depot. They are all the DIG or DIG brand, but this is 1/4 inch drip line tubing, or as I like to call it, Swiss cheese tubing, that has emitters in it every 6 inches, and that way we can do just a circle around the top of the pot. You're also going to need some couplers again like you did last time, but you'll need them to be the size to fit the 1/4 inch tubing. So I have barbed couplers, I have T's, elbows, and I also have some goof plugs. At the end of this, you want to keep your drip as one solid closed, if you will. I know it has emitter holes, but closed system, so you're not losing pressure at the end of the line. And this goof plug will allow us to do that at the end. Also, I have a punch here so that we can punch a hole in our current 1/2 inch tubing that's in the other flower beds to insert this tubing. And I also have my pruning shears today. I finally found them, pruning shears to cut the tubing itself. So let me show you what we're working on here. So we were there before. These are the stairs to my house, and then I have this walkway that comes this way and then goes back down to my driveway. And here we have the containers. They're lined up on the edge of the walkway. The 5 that are empty right now will be permanent, these containers. The rest of these are Jackson's kind of temporary garden, if you will. And they're not getting the love and attention that they need. You can see that the leaves are looking a little sad and things like that. So we're going to hook them up on drip so that no one has to water them. They can be watered very easily. That one's doing really well. The strawberry's doing pretty good. The basil's doing good. But we want to get these hooked up to water so they have the best chance for success. So what we're going to do here, if you get in this flower bed, you'll notice that there's drip tubing in here. We're going to dig up some drip tubing, punch a hole in here, run a 1/4 inch line underneath this whole sidewalk piece, and you'll notice that it's got holes in it in the grate. We're going to run it in there, and on each pot we're going to run up some more poly tubing with the emitter tubing around the top. Alrighty, so we're going to get started on this end, the end farthest from our water source, and then work our way back to the water source to connect it to it. So for each pot, I do need to order some pot feet for these so it'll sit it up a little bit, because you don't want this to rest on it, crimping the tubing. But for each pot, we're going to run tubing up through here and leave a little bit of excess so that we can work with that a little later. And then we're going to snake it into here. The only problem that I'm going to have is that here we will have to jump over this little hoop. But we're going to start here, snake it into here, and get to the next pot. So what I'll need to do is stretch out my line, kind of measure an excess amount, snake it through there, and then connect the next part. So I've measured it up, including a good bit of excess, and I've got enough line here. So now I'm just going to snake it into the grate here. And this is the thing with your drip irrigation system, you're obviously going to have to work it out to whatever works for your particular yard. But they have so many parts and pieces and different ways to configure your stuff that it is pretty simple and it is pretty adaptable. And as you go, if something doesn't work, you can always cut it and refit it to what you need. Let me show you here. So we started here with our excess length, then we can put soil on it and connect our emitter hose at the top. And then it's run underneath here, and like I say, the only place it goes over is right there. And if you're stepping back, if you're not looking for it, you really don't notice that. And it's trenched all the way through here. And then it comes up the drainage hole here where we can connect the next part. So for this container here, obviously I've got my drip line, so I'm just gonna pour in my potting mix and then show you how we're gonna connect the emitter tubing as well. Is we're going to cut this right around the top of the pot area. I want to leave a little extra space on my tubing because once I plant this up, the soil level is going to be higher. I haven't filled it all the way up right now because we are going to plant it up, and once you plant it up, your soil is going to be higher. So we're going to cut it closer to where the top of the pot would be, maybe just a little bit below it. And then we're going to take one of our T-couplers here and put the T side down. And then I've cut a ring of emitter tubing, and we're going to put this around. So that will make it a closed system because it will be T here with these two. So let me show you here what that looks like. So we've got our main line coming out, our T-coupler, and then our ring. So when we go to plant, we can either flip this out and then flip it back over the plants, or we can just tuck it in there with landscape staples and then plant around it. So now we're gonna go over to this container. So now I'll show you how we're gonna hook up this container. Alrighty, so for these containers, what we did was cut a line of tubing that was the same size of line of the emitter tubing there. Now, I have my two lines here, one coming from the previous pot, one going to the next pot. So what I'm gonna do here is put a T connector in here and connect it on this side as well. When I connect this one, our emitter tubing, we're going to install a goof plug at the end so that we can just snake this around the plant, and we'll tuck that in there. So let me show you what I've done on these second containers and the next containers down the line. So I've got my two hoses that come, one from the previous pot and the other, and I've put my T-plug in here. And then this is a line of drip emitter tubing that is the same length as the one I put in the first pot. But instead of having a circle that connects back to the T, I've installed a goof plug here. See if it'll focus on that. A goof plug here so that it'll maintain a system. So we can just pull this out when we go to plant and then put it back in around the plants. And so now I just need to do the same thing with the remaining containers. So now that we've got all of those, we're going to work on connecting these that are in their temporary spot up to drip. So we want it to be drip, but we don't want it to be as permanent. So we don't have to make sure it's as covered or as tightly knit. So what I want to do is just take this brown emitter tubing and snake it around one long piece around the plants, and then I'll show you how to connect it back in. So what I've done is start with one piece of brown tubing. I've put a goof plug on the end here, and I've got some landscape staples, and I'm just going to snake it around the plants and then connect it back to our existing drip system. Alrighty, so now for the final step, I'm going to cut this emitter tubing here, put a T in, and then I'm going to run some 1/4 inch black poly over here to the drip that's in this bed and use this barb emitter to insert it in. So let me show you how that works. So we're going to cut this tube here and insert our tea. And then to that tea, we're going to get a length of black poly. And insert it here. And then we've got our emitter line here. And we're just going to want to use our punch tool here to line it up and punch a hole. And then we're going to take our barbed coupler, insert it into our 1/2 inch poly, and attach our 1/4 inch poly. Now we're going to turn it on, make sure it all works. Alrighty, so we've got water. So that's really all there is to it. Sorry you guys, I'm a complete mess. It is very hot again out here today, but we've got these containers all hooked up on drip, and I wanted to show you a couple ways to do it so that you can see kind of a more temporary if you just need to get your plants watered, and a more permanent solution. That's going to be all for me on this video. I'm going to go inside and cool off. Thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.